My name is Janos, after 3 custom electric cars, and today we're going to look at series and parallel battery configurations. Let's get into it. Alright, let's learn about modern battery packs. 96S 4P, 1S 4P, 10S 3P. What does all that mean? We're going to go through that with some examples. Also, we're going to find out what happens if you add batteries in series, what happens if you add them in parallel, what happens if you've got uneven rows in your battery pack, and how you would add batteries to your battery pack. Alright, let's start at the beginning. Why do we need all of that? In an ideal world, we've got our load, like our electric motor for electric car, or whatever it is, or solar installation that we want to smooth out. Why don't we have a battery like this? It's got exactly the voltage that we want, it's got exactly the capacity that we want, and it's got one big plus and one big minus. Alright, first of all, I'm demonstrating here, it's quite unwieldy to have it like this. They're hard to produce, that's the one problem with them, so it's easy to mass produce smaller batteries. The second one is thermal consideration. If you've got a battery like this, it's going to be quite easy to cool it on the outside, but on the inside, you're going to end up with a big area that you can't get the heat out of, so let's not do this. Instead, you're building your battery pack out of loads of little ones. For example, these ones here, 18650s or 21700s. And what you do is you put loads of them in series and you put loads of them in parallel to have the right size battery bank. Alright, what do these hieroglyphs mean? On screen now, I'm showing 1S4P. You've got 4 batteries that are in parallel, so you've got the same capacity from all of these batteries, and you've got the same voltage as for one battery. If you add batteries in series, you're increasing the voltage. If you add batteries in parallel, you're increasing the capacity. If you now have a 2S4P, you've got double the voltage and double the capacity as well. You've got much higher voltage, and the total capacity of the bank is you take the capacity of every cell and you multiply the series times parallel. So you always end up with this grid kind of setup, right? In a modern car, you end up with an 800 volt system with 192 of these in series and 4 of them in parallel if they're pouch cells, and many more if they're cylindrical cells like this one here, right? You can also have a 400 volt system where you've got 96 of these in series. Let's assume in this example here, we've got 4 in series and 8 in parallel. The load that we are running is always split equally between the batteries of the row. There's no balancing that goes from one row to the next, but there's balancing within the row. Within the individual rows, you've got balancing. Why does it always have to be a grid? Let's assume we have an uneven row, like this one here. Let's assume I remove these 2 batteries here in this row. So what that means is that the cells that are on the row need to carry the same load as the other rows, but with fewer members that are helping. You can imagine like people carrying a heavy weight. The ones on the weaker row will wear out faster, and that's all there is to it. Adding batteries, we can't add them in series because then we change the voltage. If you've got a laptop charger that is for your domestic plugs and is rated for like 240 or in America 420, and all of a sudden you run that at 400 volts, it's just going to pop, right? It doesn't work. You've got the same problem in your electrical system. If you just add voltage, you might be running other devices out of spec, so you can't just add capacity like that. So you have to add it in parallel. As I've just described, if you've got uneven rows, you can't add capacity just to one row or another. You have to be consistent at the same capacity to all of them. Additionally, the batteries need to be balanced in. Let's assume in this example here, you're adding rows, but they're at a different state of charge. So they are 90% and our existing bank is at like 40. If you now just connect them, you would discharge the higher batteries in a completely uncontrolled fashion into the lowest charged batteries, right? Overheat the discharging batteries and overcharge the ones already there. So the only way you can do it is to connect them through a resistor first and then gradually decrease the resistance between the new batteries and the old batteries. That's the only way to add them. And this is what every car manufacturer does, and everybody who assembles a battery pack, when they're balancing these batteries in, they have to balance them in through resistors or bring them up to charge at the same time when they're building them. That's all there is to it. So you now understand what this notation means. It means, you know, series and parallel, and you multiply them all together to get the whole capacity of the whole pack. You know what it means if you've got uneven rows. The smaller rows are going to work much harder than the wider rows, so that doesn't work. You know why we don't make big buckets of batteries. Well, we have to build them out of these in the first place, and you know now how you can add batteries to this. What I haven't mentioned yet is a BMS. Because these lithium batteries need to be kept within safe boundaries of highest voltage and lowest voltage, you need a BMS to monitor all of these batteries, right? You can monitor all the rows, but you should also monitor every cell as well for temperature, or groups of cells you should monitor. Anyway, this is how a modern battery pack is built in an electric car. Wherever you've got lithium ion batteries, you're going to find a BMS, and you understood now the arrangement of series and parallel. I hope this was helpful, and see you around.